Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Today we are hosting Honorable Farah Maalim, the former Deputy National Assembly Speaker. Honorable Farah Maalim on the other side of the studio, as well as Honorable Beatrice Elachi, also a former Nairobi County Assembly Speaker and recent former CAS in the Public Service Gender Ministry, and of course also Luludin Kagaya, political commentator as well as a legal analyst. I want to go to Honorable Beatrice Elachi, given that she just joined us. Honorable Beatrice Elachi, good to see you once more in our studio set. But the first question to you, given that it is an important week for the girl child itself, have women been given enough chance in the sphere of politics when it comes to this particular polls, as many people, we're seeing many women coming up and at least vying for various seats in regards to gubernatorial, senatorial, members of parliament, just like you, and MCAs as well. Have they been given ample space in the world of politics in our country?
Thank you very much, and good morning. And tomorrow we celebrate International Women's Day.
Yes.
And so it's a special, as you say, special week for the girl child, but also for women and also for our husbands and our sons, that we look and reflect back where we've come from. I think for Kenya, let me not say we are celebrating that we are within that political sphere, but we appreciate the new constitution and the new dispensation that women now can come out and really engage in politics than before. And I think within East Africa, I would say we are still very, we can't compare ourselves to all the countries within East Africa. They're doing better, especially within the political spheres, especially within parliament. You've seen the way we have pushed the agenda of two-thirds in terms of even Duale bringing in 2 bills and all of them flopped. You remember the former CJ gave his advisory that indeed Parliament should be dissolved for us to achieve. We were not able. Within the BBI, we thought we will achieve that. We have not been able. And now here we are within the politics. Here we are moving to the general elections of 2022. My prayer is that political parties now, and I believe if political parties would want to see the two-thirds gender rule be achieved, they can. And I know I'm seated with one of the most seniors who are in a political party. If, for example, the president, the deputy, the right honorable, the former vice president, each of them who have a political party in their regions decide that we are going to send a list to IEBC that is 1/3 gender, and these are women who you have nominated to go through the ballot to the end, definitely they will win. They will win those seats in their regions. It is more easier that way, and definitely we will be able to achieve at least, if we have the 47 women who are coming in on the affirmative action seat, I think you need like 40 women or 50 elected. And you'll have achieved your 1/3.
To satisfy the
in fact, even less, because Parliament is Senate and National Assembly. And so when you're putting in the 1/3, you're looking at the 16 in the Senate, and you can tell yourself 30 women elected in the National Assembly, we will achieve the 1/3. And so my prayer is that political parties will have deliberate wish to give women who are strong. I'm not saying just give women. And I'm also not saying go and give women, because you have been told by IBC, bring a 1/3 engendered list. Now you take a woman from a region where you know very well, that party will not win in that region. I think that would be very unfortunate. So if we want to achieve, we can achieve as a country. I'm happy we have a woman, CJ. So let's see how it evolves. You never know. If we don't achieve that 1/3, trust me, we are going to have some battles after this election, and very serious ones, until Parliament achieves the way the county assemblies have achieved. So let's not take it as if it's a joke. Let's, for once and for all, do what Uganda does, Tanzania does. I think that all the East African countries, even the ones in war, even Somalia, have achieved this. So I don't understand Kenya, where the challenge is and why the challenge is there.
Honorable Beatrice, given that we have a seasoned politician next to you and he has been also in Parliament
And he's a
itself, why is it hard,
official.
Honorable Farah Maalim, to pass the two-third gender rule in Parliament itself?
Why is it important in the first place to pass it? Because let me tell you one thing. There are countries in Scandinavia where more than 50% of the elected members of Parliament are women.
Yes.
Very young, some of them, prime ministers. They run the system there. There's never a rule like this. You see, you don't talk of democracy and then talk of setting aside seats. I think this is the biggest mistake we have made. To begin with, we, instead of doing very fundamental, critical, structural issues on women itself in the country here, empowering them to bring them up to speed with the rest. The same way we empowered, what do you call that? We empower the pastoralists and the nomadic people who have not had access to education and a lot of other things that the rest of the country has had. We empower them and bring them to that level and then allow them then to compete effectively with that. I have a feeling that there will be more women. If personally I was a governor, I would trust not 60%, but 70% of the cabinet positions with women. Because they have much more dignity when it comes to, on a general basis, on a measurement like that, and they're less corrupt than the men. I would give more jobs to women, I'd give more contracts to women, I'll give more opportunities to women. But you see, you don't do that through a legislation. It was a mistake. That legislation in our constitution itself, or that piece of constitutional, which was talking about a 2/3 or a 1/3 or whatever, that no gender should do that, is a mistake. Allow the women to get the basic tools to allow them to catch up with the men because of the traditional historical marginalization of women in the country, where the men were seen as a better breed, which was common in every nation in this country. You know, Kenya is not a nation. We have so many nations. The Luya nation, the Somali nation, the Kikuyu nation. All these nations had kind of marginalized the women. So, or the girl child. We need now to bring those. Right now, let me tell you the issue in here. I can talk of my community, for example.
Yes.
The people of Northeastern Province. There are more girls in the critical, tough, difficult disciplines in the universities in the country right now than there are boys. Go to the University of Nairobi and find out the number of boys who are doing medicine and the number of girls who are doing medicine and who went there by their own merit. There are more girls. Let me tell you one thing. There are more girls. The girls are more serious. But what we did a lot is to try and empower them at that level, create more girls' schools, build them up from primary to secondary and the rest of it. And that's basically what's happening right now. They're able to catch up and surpass. I was in Kuwait, where the gender rule was not in the constitution, but it was there as part of the government administrative, what do you call, fiat. And I had a very good friend who was in Parliament, who was also a professor in the university at that time.
Okay.
And he told me, look, if you don't apply this rule, 90% of the people who are going to qualify through merit to the medical school in the University of Kuwait were going to be women. So we had to try and control that and say that, no, you can't go beyond this level. And at that time, it was like 60-40. You see what I mean? No gender should be allowed to be more than 60. More so the men. They were protecting the boys. Go to the Somali diaspora community right now and go to Oxford University, go to Cambridge University, go to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all the Ivy League universities in the States. The majority of the Somali kids who are there are girls.
Okay.
So why do you have to come up with a law? You see, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have a law. We should not have had a constitutional provision that says the gender rule and puts it there. It's not there in the States. It's not there in the Scandinavian countries. It's not there in all the. It's not there in Uganda, in Rwanda, where 60% of the members of parliament are women, over 50% are women. It's not there anywhere. So what we needed to do was to help with those structures, the structures that were in place that traditionally marginalized them. Remove those what they call bottlenecks, allow them to have an affirmative action, and then let them compete in the field. For example, if you had more women right now competing for this competitive, what they call electoral positions, I have a feeling that over a period of time, the electorate will realize that it's safer to send more women there than men.
Okay.
You understand my point?
Yes.
But when we try and put this in law, you eliminate that possibility. You know, you see, let me tell you, the affirmative action in the US, for example, for African Americans, which was supposed to lift them up and bring them at par.
Yes.
When it overstays, it creates a dependency. It creates a situation in which you say, as a black student, I only need to get, say, 70%. I don't need to get, or 60%. I don't need to get as far as the white kid is getting to qualify to do this critical fields in Ivy League universities.
Okay.
No. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It has to be removed at some stage for that competitive spirit to kick in.
Yes.
So the women in this country must come up with that competitive, what do you call it, spirit themselves, that fire in their own bellies.
Okay.
The same way Beatrice Elachi is fighting against men now
Yes.
to win a seat, and she's likely going to win.
Yes.
And there are many other women. Look at Martha Karua. Look at the number of women. Look at Charity Ngilu as the governor of that place. She did not need to be given any what do you call affirmative action there.
Yes.
And that basically, in my opinion, should be the spirit.
Okay, Honorable Farah Maalim. I'm coming to you, Nurdin. Just give me 1 minute because the phone is starting to blow up, given that they're asking so many questions directed to Honorable Farah Maalim and Beatrice Elachi. Honorable Beatrice Elachi, there's an interesting question here from one of our viewers right now. He is asking whether you're contemplating ditching Jubilee Party to join ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga as you eye the Dagoretti North Member of Parliament seat.
I think I'm an ODM member, a life member. So I don't know the ditching.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. You see, the problem with Kenyans, they like everything to be on the media. They forget.
But you're not dressed in
Well,
you're dressed in Jubilee colors today.
Well, I'm dressed in Azimio colors today.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
it
so,
is blue and red,
there's
yes.
nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
Because these are the colors we are going to use. But just having said, just before
Yes.
my senior comes in, the most important thing is not giving women seats.
Yeah.
And what I was saying is that we are now in the field competing.
Empower them.
The political parties must look at their strong women. For example, in Wiper, you have Jessica, you have
Who are doing very well.
Rachel,
Who are
you
winning
have
on their own.
So don't throw them away because they've gone now through another nomination where men can gang up, and by the way, you find them being thrown away.
Yeah.
But the party should deliberately and see, these are women who have competed, they've been sitting
they're doing
members
very
of
well.
parliament.
They're doing
I
very
believe you need to retain them because they are women. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
That in this year, I will want to see women going to compete, but political parties appreciating and picking them. Don't pick the weak one. And that's why I said, look at that strong woman.
Yes.
But then let 30 women compete to the end, to the ballot. And if they're in their strongholds with the right party, they will win. Yes, they will win.
Just to butt in.
Yes. 30 seconds.
Before you
given
butt
that I-
in.
yes.
Okay.
And Mheshimiwa should also, my speaker should also appreciate, it is absolutely not women who did it. Kenyans decided to agree on the treaties that are there.
Yeah.
And you've signed within those treaties. And so Tanzania has signed, that's why they have their 30%, by the way. In fact, 35%. Uganda signed. In Rwanda, the same. It is a UN agreement in all these countries. And for the Scandinavian countries, they have absolutely no issue for now because, in fact, where we learned all these gender issues it was from the Scandinavian countries
Yeah, but it
when
has-
they started.
yes,
Now they
empowered.
have achieved. He has just told us in the universities we have who? Girls.
Yeah.
Trust me, you will need this policy for our boys at one point. And not very far. I'm seeing 2027, we will need it for the boys.
Okay.
Because the women will now have come at par, and you will see more women will be now fighting for political seats than the men are. Look at even right now. We have, if we are not careful, for the first time, 60% of sitting members of parliament are going to come back. That's how interesting it is now. And yet you always see many a times Kenyans
They
would
come
come
in.
out to vote and remove them. But this time when you go on the ground, you find they're the ones who are very strong. Why? Because we've gone through COVID, people didn't have money, some people closed their businesses, and so they don't find it easy to engage into the same politics. So we have to also ask ourselves as we move on as a country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nurdin, I want to rope you in, given that Honorable Beatrice Elachi has reminded us what the former Chief Justice David Maraga did before he left office. He asked for the dissolution of Parliament, failure to which they did not uphold the two-thirds gender rule. Given your legal background, can we see somebody going to court and, of course, taking this matter to the logical conclusion, which is the Supreme Court of Kenya?
You see, I honestly don't think there's a need to go to court for that. You know, she just said something. Right now, they're in the field. You see, all these political parties are going to have nominations. How do you get women to Parliament? Have fair nominations, free nominations, all right? Make the nomination process fair to everyone. That is why you'll see women who are strong. Some, you know, some are strong, but they don't have the monetary value. Some gentlemen will have more money, so they will bulldoze their way and get in there. You see, the sad reality is that Article 100 talks about promotion of marginalized groups. It puts women and the youth there. For me, I don't call the youth and women marginalized. According to me, they are the silent majority, because the numbers the youth and the women have are many, you realize. And the day they realize the numbers they have and they put them together, that it will be a good day for them. But when you come to our politics, for example, you see the reason why some, like when you saw the bill in Parliament, I was not surprised when many men didn't show up to Parliament. You see, it takes a special kind of man to hold a woman and work with her and support her. Yes, it takes a special kind of man. And for someone like me, you see, I come from the school of leadership under Thomas Sankara, where he says revolution and women liberation go hand in hand. Because if these women were good when the Mau were fighting, they were spies, they were agents, they brought food. So they can be good as well in helping you lead a country. So it takes a special kind of man to believe that women can be equal partners in this journey of trying to liberate a country. That is why I said that. So at the end of the day, these political parties, because she just said it will come a time when the gentlemen will also need it, or rather the young men and the young men, which is very true. Farah Malim just gave an illustration about the medical fraternity. I like to tell him, don't go too far. You see here in Karen, just go to Kenya School of Law. 3/4 of the students are women. Just go there, and it's not even funny, because when we were there back in the day, we used to say, man, you know, you're in a class of 349 people, you're like 50 gentlemen. You're in a group of, let's say, 11, because you are grouped in
7
groups.
and 8 of them are
I'll tell you a funny story. In the group I was in, I was the only man. And so they said, you'll be the farm leader, because you're the only gentleman here. So you'll be the farm leader, and we move. You can imagine. So moving forward, and if the gentlemen will start fizzling out. Because if you look at it, many of them don't finish school, and that is why they're used as goons in this political time. And we'll get to a point where, when we forget about them, we'll be in a crisis. So what I'm saying in essence is we need to move together as a country, both men and women, as equal partners, so that we can be able to liberate this country. We have so many issues that we would want to tackle, and sometimes they might have better ideas than what we have. And it's also good to just listen. So the political parties that are going to have nominations next month, make the process fair, so that women can also make sure they go through. And that woman who comes number 2 and has a solid base, man, nominate her to Senate or to Parliament. It's easier that way, because you give them a chance to go there and galvanize and come back together. And to them, the women who get into office, make sure you get there, mentor these young men and women. Because when you just take a photo and say divas and so and so, and then when you get elected, you forget about them, you're not helping anyone. If you go to office, for example, as a female representative, how many women in 5 years, how many young girls have you mentored to actually come and take over from you? That is what we need moving forward. So that we don't stay and keep saying two-thirds, oh, we need this every other time. They should also fight for these positions.
Honorable Farah Malim, there's a question here for you. I know you answered a little bit earlier. Somebody here is interested in regards to the pact between Azimio and Orca. If you'd like to take that question, he is asking.
There's no pact. There's no pact. There might be a pact in future, but we don't have a pact now. We haven't started any negotiations. It's just preliminary, what do you call, exploratory moves here and there. But there's never a pact between Orca and Azimio. You get my point?
Yes.
Read my lips.
Yes.
There's no party between Azimio and Orca. So any assumption is misplaced.
Okay.
Yes.
Honorable Beatrice Elachi, in connection to what Farah Maalim is saying there, somebody is asking, are you going to see, given that you are in that, you're the most trusted lieutenant in the Azimio camp itself, are we going to see Kalonzo coming on board, perhaps?
Well, you see, I always say politics is interest. I leave it to them. It's their interest. You see, the best we should do, we should continue campaigning. Focus. Focus, each person, focus on your strategy. If you feel you're the... You see, for me, if you ask me, I will feel disappointed with all... For the last 20 years, I have seen all these leaders, and I get disappointed when we come to election. Are we really interested to the country, or you're interested on you? Or, and I need to tell them also, by the way, leadership comes from God. If you know, you feel within your spirit, God has anointed you, move on. God will open ways. So for me, I don't want to engage. I want each focus. If you really love this country, focus on your strategy. Let's move on. Let's not make it a sideshow. Are you doing this thing? They move on, move the country through Orca to where we will reach. At one point, I have always said, whether you love Kenya or you don't like, let me tell you, with this new constitution, it's an interesting hybrid. You will have to work with everyone in the end, by the way. So there's no need of this. And Uhuru taught us one lesson. That's why I have always said, that lesson I learned, I don't know. I appreciate one thing about Kenyans. They love seeing their leaders on one table. They hate this pull and push. They really hate it. And so if we can really understand our electorate, if you ask them, they'll tell us, move. When we choose you, we want you to work with everyone. And that is when you put the country to settle. So they move with their strategy at one point. If they feel the ideologies we have, they believe they can work together with us, more welcome. If we believe we can work with them, we are open-armed. We are open in the process. Yes, that will be my take.
Okay, Farah Maalim, you're about to finish what you're about to say, but as you heard from Beatrice Elachi, she's talking about leaders need to come together right now, especially given that this particular bill that was just the other day was passed in Parliament. You have few months before you either join a side or a coalition itself. Is it possible? Are we going to see that in the coming days?
Like she has put it, it's a question of interest. It's a question of interest. It's a question of an ideological persuasion. What exactly do you think, do you feel, what are you planning to achieve in politics? Is it possible for you to achieve your objectives and your own vision for the country within a certain coalition? Do you see shared values? You see what I mean?
Yes.
Do you see shared values? And to what extent are you going to compromise on some of your values? Because if they're not shared, then of course there's the differences there. And it's understandable to have differences. It's very understandable. But to what extent? Are you going to share and compromise on 70% of your values? Or are you going to share and compromise on 30% and achieve the 70%? So there are a lot of things that are there to be looked at. And it's not just power. It's not just being appointed. It's not the cabinet positions that you're going to negotiate and say, I'll take 5, you take 3, you take 2, you know, that kind of, no. It's the totality of that thing. If you're going to work with somebody and he's your boss, and you're going to be his number 2, do you see a possibility of that environment working together in tandem? Do you see the two of you working together?
Very important.
Very, very important, because the two of you might have a problem. One person might just see you as a personal assistant and to be told what to do. You see what I mean? But you yourself want to certain things to be implemented. You want to be useful and do certain things. Now, there are a lot of things that come into focus in this. I just want to go back one more time briefly on the issue of the gender. I still think that we made a wrong start. And when you make a wrong start and you get lost, you go back to where you started to try and retrace. You know, I came to Nairobi as a to a national school outside Nairobi when I was 15 years old. And I didn't know Nairobi those days that well. So once in a month, we'd be allowed to go out there and we'd be released. It's a boarding school. So when I come, I get lost sometimes in the city. What I used to do is to look up there and see Hilton Hotel, because the bus station used to be next to Hilton Hotel. There was a bus stop where Kencom is those days, which was a bush, by the way. Then I'll trace my route back. So when you lose your steps, go back to where you started from. You know what I mean? Have a landmark, what do you call landmark pillar or beacon that you can come back to and then start off again. We made a mistake in enacting that provision in our constitution. When the Chief Justice says he threatens dissolving parliament, you dissolve it. People go back again and they elect 90% men. What are you going to do? You dissolve it again. You're not going to guide through the courts the intentions of the people on the ground. The people on the ground are supposed to choose their best leaders. You see what I mean? You can't take away the right to choose the leader they want from them and say that if you don't alter that because there's a constitutional provision, then I will what do you call dissolve parliament. You can't. So you have to. I was in parliament myself, the very first time, with such powerful women, Charity Ngilu, Martha Karua, Agnes Detei, I don't know if you remember Agnes Detei.
Yeah.
Bishop Wanjiru was there, and there were a number of women who were there. I was there in the 10th Parliament with, I think, 7 or is it 6 Kalenjin women. Kamara, a bit, what they call Professor Kamara, Margaret Kamara, Saleh Kosgei. You know, women who were able to stand. Paris, somebody. The late
Joyce.
The late Joyce Laboso. Before that, it was her sister, Lorna Laboso, was there. And the Kalenjins are supposed to be a very conservative, pastoralist background community like the Somalis themselves, and who basically but you see, people have come of age. These women were able to offer better than the men can offer. So allow that kind of an environment to develop. But when you try and put a constitutional provision in it to force the people, it will never happen. Let me be honest with you. And then later on, there was the most conservative constituency right now in the whole of the north is Ijara. Ijara, where women had no place, by the way. But still, Sophia went there, contested. She ran an NGO before that was putting up schools and everything else and did a fantastic job for the community. That conservative community was able to change his mind. And by the way, she was rigged out one time. There was a time she won the elections, but was rigged out. You know what I mean?
2013.
Yes, she was rigged out. And she won it against all odds. So let us empower the women so that we give them the basic tools that they need. Because of the historical marginalization, for them to now compete with men on an equal footing. But let's not try and force the results of a democracy on the masses. You cannot force the results of a democracy.
Okay, Honorable Farah Maalim. Before I come to you, Nurdin, there's another question here for Honorable Beatrice Elachi. Somebody is asking, given that there's this headache of Azimio and Kenya Kwanza in the issue of running mate, they are currently in a bid of war between those particular two camps in search of a second running mate. In the Azimio coalition itself, somebody here is asking, Honorable Beatrice Elachi, are you and the other female leaders in that particular movement championing a woman for the position of a deputy president?
Not just championing. I think we have really pushed the candidates to ensure.
You already forced a candidate. You already talking about.
We are really pushing the candidates to know that a woman will be the best bid for him as a deputy. So, but it's on the table. You see, I've always said...
Could you tell us who, Honorable Beatrice?
No. But in politics, you see the problem that when you're doing politics, and you'd see even in the US, you have to really put in so many thematics to understand. And you can see in Kenya, we look at regional balance, then we look at the clans, I don't know, so many things. Same in the US. It's only that in the US, people see Muzungus do it. They forget it's the same thing. It's only that for them, you are within the Republican and these ones are within the Democrats, and so you package in a way, and that is why Kamaris from the sort of Hispanic, those who moved in the US those days, and because there are huge, huge numbers today than the real Americans who call themselves, even though there was no American. Yeah, but then they see it that way. And that's why you package Biden with her, and she brings in a different breath for Biden. So the same, if in Kenya we would look, not just from our side, both sides, you'll find a woman will bring in a very different breath. It's only that the men won't understand that. The men will feel how, and everyone is fighting for it anyway, and so it's very interesting. But if you were just a leader who just wants to focus the country to the right direction, this was the right time to get a deputy woman take over from either man who wants to be president in this country.
Okay, that is a matter of wait and see, given that they have already 150 days to choose before that particular poll. We do hope that it will be a woman in both camps, Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, as we continue this particular discussion. Nurdin, to you, are we ever going to see that happen?
Why do you forget One Kenya Alliance? And
yes,
assume that they will not have... We have the strongest woman in the country there.
In Martha Karua.
Martha Karua.
Yes, apologies.
There's nobody who matches Martha Karua, I can tell you, with finality. I don't know if young girls coming up now will get such a good materials like Beatrice and others. But Martha is in a class of her own, a very unique class.
So you have already revealed to us it will be Kalonzo Musyoka and Martha Karua in Orca.
She can be the presidential candidate, she can be a deputy presidential candidate. And let me tell you one thing, she is somebody.
Okay, between, given that you already...
Very honest, very straight, very strong, full of ideas.
Okay.
Full of ideas. Very national.
Yes.
She does not subscribe to all these small cocoons of regions and tribes and the rest.
And Nurdin, are we ever going to see that happen when we see a presidential, not even just a deputy president, a presidential woman leading in all factors?
Anything is possible in politics. You can never rule out anything. But matters a deputy president, like Farah said the first time, the issue of a presidential candidate and a running mate is there needs to be a common vision, all right? So that, we've seen, courtesy of this current dispensation, things we don't want to see in the next government, where you don't run a common vision, you don't have a common view of what you want to do. Person X wants this, B wants to look at the future. That is a problem we really don't want to see, because moving forward, I believe, that is why most of the deputy governors, they are just like more or less, they're just in offices to take tea. There's a time when Waititu told the current governor, when you are seeking a seat, you should know what you are looking for. When you PA, sit there. The funny thing about life is now the governor. That is the beauty about life. You never know about tomorrow. You realize. So there needs to be a level of respect between whoever is the boss and whoever is the deputy, so that we can actually move. Because if we don't have that, then we'll have this issue of, I am the one who's in charge. You just sit pretty until I tell you what to do. So that is why I'm saying the issue of running mate or whatever, be it male or female, it's really not important. What is important is how will they work together. If you can put there a lady and then she's frustrated and she never works, she's just there because she has to be there. How are you helping her? You realize? So we need to make sure that a common vision and a common agenda between whoever is in charge and who is a deputy moving forward. Yeah.
Okay, given that we have a few minutes before we wrap up, I want to start with Honorable Beatrice Elachi. Honorable, as you make your final remarks, Beatrice Elachi, many are asking what is in store for Beatrice Elachi come August 9th, 2022, as well as tell us your final remarks in regards to the electorate who are watching you right now when it comes to the August 9th elections, given that there's so many, the political scene is already heating up for many Kenyans. What is your final remarks and what is in store for Beatrice Elachi?
What is in store for Beatrice Elachi, campaigning in Dagoretti North as the Member of Parliament, praying to God that I'll be their Member of Parliament and I'll do what I'm supposed to do as a leader and a servant for my people. And I think all I need to tell them is that the same vision I had in 2017, I think it's the same vision. I think the most important thing is education. The most important thing, how do we empower, especially the young people? I mean, not just empower, but I would want to see that empowerment goes into some change of value, change of how they look at things, change in terms of their own lives, that they can now refocus and be young Kenyans who can marry, take care of their wives in a better way. I know there are many challenges in the Dagoretti North. I won't talk about them. But at the national scene, I think for me, my reasons why I'm in Azimio, I look at the country, I look forward for this country to move as one country, but more importantly, where people will start respecting each other, where people will feel that indeed they are within to change their lives, not to just walk within a country and feel so disoriented, feel we are not part of this government. So it's my prayer that every Kenyan will be part of that government and they will feel they are part of government, and we shall be able to really look back and transform. And if Nairobi works, the country will work. Yeah. So it is for us Nairobians to ask ourselves, who is our next governor? And how is he going to run this county? And how is he going to appreciate that people have to do small businesses, put up hubs for people to come back and do their small SMEs that they were doing? How do we ensure all these things that we have done wrongly, we can try slowly by slowly, restructuring back the city and bringing back infrastructure that can accommodate the huge numbers that we have now. And therefore, for me, I pray that we will work together with our brothers, Orca, and come on the table. Let's look at the country. Let's look at this country, by the way. And lastly, it is my prayer. That's why I'm in Azimio. Yeah. I've never voted for Raila, but I'll vote for him. But I'm voting for him for this reason. I think it's time we now turn the tables around, remove something that was called KANU from those days. Everyone who has that ideology of KANU must be getting out of this country now. It's time for a new dispensation, absolute new dispensation, so that we move forward. Yes.
Honorable Farah Maalim, to you, the same question.
Before you ask the question, I like very much the word she has used, servant leader.
Yes.
Servant leader. You're out there to serve the people. But I want to ask her one question. Has she considered shifting to the Dagoretti North to live among her constituents?
I have. You see, that's why I say everyone loves everything on media.
Yeah.
Well, I was born within Westlands when it was larger.
Yes.
I schooled at Kileleshwa Primary. Then I went to the Western region for my other education. Yes. So, and I live here.
Yes.
North is big. Even Kilimani, Kileleshwa still Dagoretti North.
No, that's what I'm saying. I am
Kilimani is the Dagoretti North?
Yes.
So she can still live. If she lives in Kilimani, she's still in Dagoretti
Lavington
North.
In fact, I live
the presumption when you say Dagoretti North, the presumption is that you are living in Dagoretti.
Gatina, Kawangware, Kabiru.
It's all.
Dagoretti constituency is a large constituency.
It's a large.
It includes Lavington, Kilimani.
Yes.
It's a very big
And I've built many churches here when I was young, when I'm still.
Yes.
Yes. So my church is just near, and my other churches are here.
Yeah.
My father comes, he goes to Salvation Army in Kawangware. So, I mean, we've lived here.
Yes.
I grew up in Kangemi, by the way.
Yes.
So there's nothing, everything I have seen when I was young.
Yes.
So many things have changed.
Yes.
Yes. As we used to see the bushes, as we used to see in Westlands, a small place where we used to go when we were very young to buy chicken.
You know, I used to imagine a situation in which the MP for Kibra would be living inside Kibra. You know what I mean? In the slums of Kibra.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he will, you know, when you live in an environment, you are in full, what do you call, touch with the hardships in that environment. And progressively, I mean, for example, in the UK and many other countries, always the members, the leaders, the members of parliament from a constituency are people who live in that constituency.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
People who live in that constituency.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they commute. In many cases, they even take the train to go to London, to the House of Commons, and to do all those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now we are looking at a situation in which we want to see members of parliament living in the serious places where they represent, you know what I mean? Because there's this gap between representation and opulence. You represent the poorest of the people, and you're the richest in this place. Is a problem. And like Magufuli used to say, if your children cannot go to the public hospitals, then why are you a leader? Set up hospitals, you're putting government funds, to establish those hospitals. And all you can do is to go to a private hospital.
Okay.
If your children can't go to the public schools, then why are you a leader in that place? So I'm looking at this thing in that broader perspective, that we all need to try and begin internalizing and seeing. I represent, for example, myself, Lagdera. I lived in Lagdera because my mom lived in Lagdera. But I'm looking at a situation in which now you live there permanently and you just come for your parliamentary work in this place. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You have a home there, and your children go to school in the same place, and they go to school with the same ordinary kids who are going out there. I intend to do that myself, to put up my own house there, in the same village in the DAP, which I've already put in there, and have that, because these are the kind of things that dawn on you.
Yes.
That we need to live, and leaders need to live amongst the most difficult sections of their own constituents.
Yes. Honorable Farah Maalim, we have run out of time. What is in store for you quickly in terms of August 9th election itself?
Well, we're running for constituencies. I'm running for the DAP constituency. I'm hoping that I'll come in as a member of parliament. I'm hoping that we'll change the constitution in this country. We have had a constitution for 10 years now. The areas where it has served us very well, but like devolution, which is very good. Although the ability to hold the governors accountable for the funds they keep on stealing has never been profound. No governor is in jail. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But no governor is in jail. But I would want to see a few changes in the constitution. For example, the government has to come from parliament. Government needs to come to parliament. You cannot have power or authority without accountability. I don't even know who are our ministers right now. The ministers out there, they are not accountable to anybody. Once in a while, they're made to appear before committees. They should be there on a daily basis. I was there as the deputy speaker when the minister would be there every day. You ask him a question, and he answers. So the three fundamental roles of a member of parliament, which is legislation, representation, to represent your constituency, and scrutiny. So other than legislation, the other two are wanting right now. Because you want to represent your people, and there's nobody to hold accountable. Scrutiny, who do you scrutinize? The ministers who are using the funds and who are determining the development priorities are not there on the floor of the House to explain to the representatives of the people. So we need to change that, so that we then have a government in parliament. That's one area that I think we need to change. And then, of course, there are many other things. And hold the county governments accountable to the letter. Who is supposed to do that? It's initially the county assemblies, which have never worked, by the way, let me tell you. Except in a few cases, in the case of Wajir, when they threw out the governor. I wish they can do that more often, that kind of a thing, throw out governors. And you don't have a court, a corrupted Supreme Court and Court of Appeal here, which will reverse these things. Sometimes they do it. How do you reverse the people's will?
Now they have two governors and two deputy governors. What a wonderful county.
So I would want to see that. And then the Senate, which was supposed to protect the devolution, but then protect the funds of the devolution also. Senate is doing nothing. It's a sick and what do you call a dead house for all intents and purposes. I'm sure they will not like what I'm saying right now. But why don't you have so many governors in jail when you keep on complaining that all the money has been stolen by governors? And then, of course, the country has to be run better. We are not running this country as good as we were running it before this new constitution came into force. We're getting worse than we were before. So let's change the areas we need to change, and the areas we need to retain, like devolution, we must have a proper accountability for that.
Finally, Luludin as well. And what is in store for you as well?
It's actually funny that I happen to sit next to my immediate competitor, British Elachi, because I happen to have intentions to vie for the Great North Member of Parliament. But I happen to be in UDA. She's in Azimio, which is a good thing. It makes it more interesting and
more easier
for me. But what I'll say in essence is that what we need going forward is that, you see, Farah Malim just said how Senate has been, is dormant, or rather it's captured. You see, what we need going forward is that we want leaders who actually stand for something. Because the house that we have right now has been captured, recaptured, and it's just there, but nothing happens. We have members who never go there, but they go there to vote and they ask, how are we voting? You don't know what you're voting for? You're just there to rubber stamp. What we need, we want leaders who work for the people. We don't want a politician. You know, a politician is self-seeking. A leader is a visionary person who wants to improve the lives of the people. Man, if you take a walk across this country, you'll see how things are being done. And you'll see the number of people who are suffering. The poverty level in this country is sickening. And we have leaders who do nothing about it. All right? And I believe a time has come to have a radical surgery of how we do our things. We can't be talking how we are an economic hub in East Africa, and other countries have been run better than us. So we need to change how things are being done. You can't be acting like the big brother in East Africa, and people are actually better than you. You need to look at other countries. In the next future, if we continue like this, other countries like Tanzania will be way ahead of us.
It is already.
It's actually better than us right now. So moving forward, I believe we need to elect servant leaders, people who want to work for the people. Because at the end of the day, if we keep electing wheeler dealers into office, then the electorate should expect the circus. Like when we started the show, we said the leaders are a reflection of the electorates. So if you go ahead and elect, let's say for example, corrupt individuals, and you see them doing such practices, well, expect that to continue, because at the end of the day, you cannot work in quick match and wear a diverse uniform. So as an electorate, pick between the two leaders who, in your view, is better to lead you.
Okay. And that is Luludin Kagai, a governance expert as well as a lawyer. And of course, to his right is none other than Honorable Beatrice Elachi, former CAS, Public Service and Gender, as well as the former Nairobi County Assembly Speaker. And finally, Honorable Farah Malim, the former Deputy National Assembly Speaker at the August House. Thank you so much for coming in this morning, both Honorables and Luludin Kagai. That has been the show. Unfortunately, I cannot read all your comments. At least I've posed some of the questions, relevant questions, to both Honorable Farah Malim and Honorable Beatrice Elachi. We're to see how the political scene will look like today, and of course tomorrow is another day. This is the trend from Monday to Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., where we bring leaders. You ask yourself questions as we continue asking questions as to what they will be doing when it comes, if they were elected into that particular positions as well. You electorate, you'll have the voice, and given that you'll have the say come August 9th, 2022. Tomorrow is another day. We'll duly inform you in what we have in store for you. See you in the 1 p.m. bulletin. For now, good morning.